Cathaoirleach, thank you for the opportunity. And I note from the Agriculture Committee's meeting minutes last week that all bar one supported and approved the funding, having raised various queries and sought some assurances conducive to accountability measures and assurances from the Minister relating to horse and greyhound racing. The one objection, of course, was in relation to the greyhound element of the funding, which is the democratic right of the person involved. These industries, like many others, have been further supplemented this year owing to the pressures caused by virtue of COVID. Now, notwithstanding the figures of over 15,000 jobs in the horse racing and breeding industry and the 5,000 jobs associated with greyhound racing and breeding industry, this funding underpins what is, of course, and has been alluded to by many speakers, a world-class and world-leading industries, the envy of many competing countries. It underpins economic activity across the country, bringing, of course, great joy and happiness, whether as a business or a pastime, whether viewed by supporters, or whether it benefits, as others have alluded to, many charities and clubs by virtue of race nights and so forth. But the issues raised at committee and in last week's defeated motion around greyhound welfare cannot be ignored. I accept and acknowledge that. But they are not being ignored, with 10% of the 19.2 million, almost 2 million in funding alone, going towards matters pertaining to improvements around greyhound care funds, improved traceability and adoption programmes, commitments that remain conditional on improvements. And nobody in opposition, in this House or anywhere else, has a monopoly on the right to raise issues associated with the welfare of animals. It was acknowledged by all parties during the course of negotiations in relation to the programme for government, and that conditionality associated with the awarding of funds has been mentioned and is the case in relation to this government and the Minister with responsibility associated with it. Of course, there are rogues in this industry. There are rogues in all industries. There are rogues in here too. And I've seen the reporting of it has to be very careful as well. I've seen myself as an owner subject to ridicule in relation to something that couldn't be substantiated but made good press and made good coverage, especially when it was associated with me and the role that I was given initially when this Dáil was brought into use. But I want to say in relation to the other issue that was raised at committee and indeed last week too, about the financial strain that is associated with the greyhound racing industry. It cannot or should not be ignored either. It is and will be difficult to sustain that industry in its present form into the future. And I would call on government to ensure, in order to protect the long-term future and viability, that the industry, the participants within it, whether it be IGB, the stakeholders and indeed the Department of Agriculture, engage in a process to investigate and analyse the means and methods by which that industry can be sustained, not necessarily in its present form in relation to 16 tracks, which many in the industry realise and appreciate is not sustainable. But we and the majority here in this Dáil are committed to the industry and are committed to ensuring that the government plays its part in ensuring that it has a future, and I want to ensure it has a long-term future too.